Is Triforce trying to weasel his way out of saying he gave reps at Twin Galaxies tips for verifying his scores now? Nice try, but we got the clips, my dude.
Yo, it's the man in the mask. This video is a response to Tipster's video. Triforce denies allegations of bribes and unintentionally exposes corruption at Twin Galaxies.
Now, a common defense of Triforce, both from Triforce himself, as well as his defenders, his little circle jerk of friends, his goons on his Discord server.
I don't know why Tipster bothers to insult the people who support Triforce, as if he's never read the comments made by Triforce's less than credible critics.
So here we have Josh asking Triforce to clarify, hey, those tips, when you offered them to the referee, you did so after he verified your scores, right? In response, Triforce says, no, essentially I was sending him a bunch of tapes and he said, hey, could you slow down a little bit? You know, I don't get paid to verify these scores. So prior to actually verifying the tapes that he was submitting to this particular referee, prior to that, he was offering to tip him to verify the scores. So this notion that, oh, the ref, you know, they wouldn't be swayed, their opinion wouldn't be changed, you know, because Triforce was giving a tip because he was tipping them after the performance. No, we have a clear-cut example of Triforce himself saying that he offered a referee a tip prior to the verification of the score. Not only that, but this theory that the reason why Triforce offered the tip to begin with was because he knew from the get-go that the referee didn't get paid at Twin Galaxies, that is complete and utter bullshit, because we clearly see that Triforce, based on the story he's telling now, the referee reveals to him that he doesn't get paid by Twin Galaxies. He didn't already know that fact, and therefore, according to the story that Triforce is telling now, he offers the tip before the verification of the scores in order to, you know, kind of, you know, as a sign of generosity to the referee for taking the time to verify his scores. So again, this took place before the verification, not after. So to anyone that is making this defense in favor of Triforce, you're being extremely dishonest, because we literally have Triforce himself admitting that he offered the tip to the referee prior to the verification of scores rather than after, like so many of you guys claim that he did.
The idea here is to get to the truth. Triforce never denied trying to tip a ref, and the XCast interview is up for everyone to see. I don't know who Tipster is referring to as far as defense theories are concerned, but the point is that Triforce never actually tipped the referee.
Now, as if all of that wasn't damning enough, Triforce, in his infinite amounts of wisdom, decided, you know what? Everything I shared right now, that's not going to cut it. Let's go a little step further. Let's admit that I'm not the only one who gave tips or gifts to referees. Let's have my buddies John Klinkle and Phil Day come on to defend me and back up the statements that I'm making. So let's see what John, Phil, and the former Twin Galaxies referee, Josh, had to say regarding these allegations against Triforce.
First of all, this is what Patrick Scott Patterson doesn't understand. I'm not even the only person who's ever done this. There have been many other people who have actually tried to tip refs, give refs presents and gifts as tokens of appreciation for their volunteer service to Twin Galaxies.
I wanted to come on today, one, to corroborate, Triforce's story about people offering tips to refs, as I've done that as well.
John, if I could interrupt 1 second here, and then we'll get right back to you. Without mentioning names either, because I don't have a problem with any of this, with what you're saying, but as somebody that worked for Twin Galaxies, many refs, and I don't have any problem with this, like I said, but many refs, when people said, hey, can I buy you lunch, can I buy you dinner, can I buy you a beer after this, many of the refs said yes.
After I got the world record, I wanted to say thanks to various people, and so Kelly Fluin, a former student of mine, he gave me a roll of 20-cent pieces, which is the equivalent of your quarter, where it was 20-cent pieces you dropped in the machine here. And And what had happened was when he gave me those coins, he said they were for world record attempts only. So what I did is, we marked them, we numbered them. And when I got the world record, I knew which number I dropped in. So I removed that and I mounted it on a plaque with a photograph of me and the guy, the Gallagher machine and my high score, whatever it was, and sent it to Kelly R. Fluin afterwards saying, thanks for, verifying the score. Thanks for, his assistance. It was just a gift of gratitude. That's all it was.
So here, now we have not only Triforce admitting to offering refs tips, but we also have Phil Day and John Klinkle admitting that they've offered tips to refs or offered gifts to refs in the past. We also have a former Twin Galaxies referee admitting that multiple referees in the past have accepted gifts or tips from other players. What I find really funny about this is they looked at this information that they were presenting and they said, you know what? This is a good defense for Triforce. And I have to strongly disagree with them on this particular point. If anything, the evidence that they presented here in defense of Triforce only goes on to prove just how corrupt the former administrations of Twin Galaxies really were.
Tipster comes to the conclusion that somehow Twin Galaxies was corrupt because referees received tokens of appreciation from the players. This point is made to weaken Triforce's defense, but this is all still in the realm of anecdotal evidence. Nothing really concrete here.
Now, in a desperate attempt to try and defend himself, Triforce actually asks a very interesting question.
And the whole thing about this whole bribing, so here's my question. So if I'm bribing a ref, why wasn't the ref terminated? Why wasn't I removed from Twin Galaxies for the actual ordeal? Why wasn't this documented, stated, and brought up? But the head administration knew, and also for other issues, they knew. So I don't see. I was just told not to do it, and I was like, okay, that was it.
That is a very good question, Triforce. Why didn't they make an issue of this before, and why didn't they discipline you before? Because as I stated earlier, this is all clear proof that there was a lot of corruption going on under the previous administrations of Twin Galaxies. We have on this particular podcast, you and multiple other individuals admitting that referees would accept tips and accept gifts. These are obvious things that could be used in an attempt to bribe a referee and potentially sway them to make a decision in your favor. There's a reason why in athletic performances or other performances where someone is being judged or reffed on their performance, there's a reason why you can't give them tips, you can't give them gifts, you can't give them bribes or anything of that nature, because they have to be fair and impartial in their ruling on that particular performance. So it's against the rules to not give them tips and bribes and gifts and, pay for their lunch, anything like that. You simply cannot do it because you cannot, potentially sway their opinion when they're judging your performance. Now, I've seen a lot of these people try to make the argument that, well, it's different for Twin Galaxies because the refs aren't paid. But when you look at refs or judges in other athletic performances, those people are actually paid for what they do. And I think that this is like a really poor attempt to try and make a good argument. This is a really poor argument. It doesn't matter. In both cases, we have referees or judges making a decision on a performance that you are trying to get approved for a high score or a world record or something of that nature. It doesn't matter if someone's paid or not paid. That doesn't make it okay to suddenly offer them a tip or a gift or a bribe in exchange for potentially, verifying your score for you in a favorable manner to you. You simply cannot do it. No excuse that you make is going to be good enough to justify those actions.
So this is just another accusation based on tokens of appreciation, either intentionally or potentially swaying a ref to favor the player. Just because a referee accepted tokens of appreciation does not mean there was corruption within Twin Galaxies. Of course, you can presume that, but we're talking about, this video is about proof. This video is supposed to contain proof that this happened. Whether or not a referee was treated to lunch or a beer or whatever after they performed their duty does not take away from the fact that the scores still had to be obtained according to the rules of their respective games. Now, obviously, you should not do such things for officials. I'll just say, if anything, this is an issue with the culture of competitive gaming not being in line with the conduct of long-established record-keeping entities. Either way, there is still no proof here of corruption. This is simply Tipster's opinion.
Now, as much as people like to try and suggest that I hate Todd Rogers, or I hate Billy Mitchell, or I hate Triforce, I always try to go into these stories and be fair to everyone involved. I like to give people the opportunity to say their side of things. I like to give people the opportunity to provide counter evidence, things of that nature. And I'm even willing to go as far as to give someone the benefit of the doubt. So when John Klinkle made this statement that I'm about to show you guys right now, I took a moment of pause and I thought about it for a second. So what exactly did John Klinkle have to say in regards to statements previously made by Triforce?
But back to Triforce, I think one of the biggest problems with his situation is he misworded it before. He said tipped, not tried to tip, and that's where people got into the bribery because he misworded what he wanted to say, and he said tipped.
And in this case, I will say, John, that is actually a pretty good point there. And I'm willing to give Triforce the benefit of the doubt that maybe he misspoke and maybe he accidentally said tipped when he actually meant that he tried to tip a referee. I'll go there. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Now, Tipster always claims to be fair, and he says he's always willing to give someone the benefit of the doubt. But it is made clear several times in this video that he has already made up his mind about the accusations. It is easy to come to the conclusion that there was corruption in Twin Galaxies when you compare them to other record-keeping entities. But what is being overlooked is the environment in which this all took place. These people are now all discussing their interactions with refs, officials, because there was no corruption in the environment. No one was bribed, no one was paid off, no one was favored, etc. No one had a reason to feel guilty because no crimes arose from this.
Now, one of the things that Triforce's goons like to try and say...
Why must Tipster use such fallacious terminology? Going by Tipster's logic, the term goon applies to people attacking Triforce for these allegations and past allegations.
Is that I clip out sound bites, as they call it, to try and, shape a narrative around what I want the audience to see rather than, actually showing them the truth. They try to say that I like to take things out of context. Now, I will admit, sometimes when I take these clips, there are portions that I cut out. Now, Triforce, he tends to ramble, and a lot of times when he's answering a question or he's addressing a point, he brings up a lot of stuff that's not really relevant to the subject matter.
I have publicly disagreed with Tipster about many things, and most recently, his excuse as to why he edits clips of recordings that he uses in his videos. I personally feel like it is never a good idea to tamper with video of someone when they're explaining themselves, no matter how long-winded, no matter how much they ramble.
But I'm going to show you guys right now an extended version of the clip that I've showed you guys before with a little bit more context in there, so then we can decide for ourselves, is John right here? Did Triforce misspeak when he said that he tipped refs when he actually meant he tried to tip a ref? Or are we on point with our accusations here? Did he actually previously say that he tipped refs and he meant that, and now he's trying to backtrack? Let's take a look at the extended version of the clip with a little more context to see just exactly what Triforce meant.
And to go along with that, I will be using the full 5 minutes of the clip, as opposed to Tipster's 2-minute cut. When I critique videos, I prefer to just let everyone say everything they have to say. and then I just respond. I just don't get into this whole practice of editing video of someone explaining themselves or making a statement or making a point.
Let's go back to this. So now here this man is saying that I paid off refs. My man said I paid off refs to legitimize my records. But see, here's something you guys don't know, and we mentioned this earlier with Terrence O'Neill. Refs don't get paid by Twin Galaxies. So the guy that I was paying off, so to speak, because I gave refs tips. I didn't pay off refs. Refs were doing this entire record stuff pro bono. And when Walter told me, and Billy told me, and a lot of people in Twin Galaxies, like, the refs do this for free. There's a guy called Robert Merchek. He was the head ref at the time. But when I got into Twin Galaxies, Robert Merchek, from what I knew, had left Twin Galaxies as the senior ref. He was still involved in it, to my knowledge, but he was no longer the senior refs. A lot of the records that were done from Twin Galaxies, Robert Merchek was the guy that literally strong-armed all of the records. Like, he was the guy who did most of the verifications. So he was like the heaviest lifter of Twin Galaxies for all of the records, right? Now, when I was told this, I was like, wow, that these guys got it rough. When he stepped down, Terrence O'Neill was the head ref for, well, the ref for New York. Let me not say the head ref. And I was told that all the records that I wanted to submit, I had to submit them to Terrence O'Neill's. There's specialized groups that you can do records for, like, okay, this group, like if you're doing a particular game like Genesis, you have to send it to this guy because this guy's a specified ref for Genesis. You have to send it to this guy's specialized ref for TurboGrafx 16s. However, depending on your circumstances, you can ask for refs in your local area if they can do your refs. And it is up to Walter Day and the head administration of Twin Galaxies to approve of a ref verifying your score that may not be appointed to a particular class or genre or platform. But if the heads verify it, then it's good. What's the problem? I don't understand that. So what a lot of people don't know is that Lance, Todd Rogers, Terrence O'Neill, and several other refs were all okay to verify my scores. This is literally stated by Walter Day himself. But to see what people are going to sit here and say, Walter's the one, he's a crooked guy behind this. You guys are taking things way out of context and not understanding. Twin Galaxies has to verify hundreds, if not thousands of records a year by hand. If you sent in a record, they got to watch it. Some refs just preferred you just do it with them live because they could just watch you do it right there, done. So for the refs that watched me live or took the time out to do my tapes or taking a bulk of my tapes, I tipped them from doing it. That wasn't against the rules. There's nothing unethical of me tipping. What's wrong? That's like a waitress who's living off of tips and she comes and she serves me food. She doesn't get paid and she's living off tips and I tip her. And then the boss comes out. Did he tip you? Yes. You're not allowed to get tipped here. That's not how you work here. What? But you don't pay me. I'm working off tips. Now,
why do you have to justify tipping somebody?
No, it has to be stated. Because the assertion and the conjecture here is that I'm buying off refs, not tipping them. You see how they manipulate? They take a truth and they bend it to give a different view so people can look at me with a demonized point of view. It's not that they're saying what they're lying, yes, but it's a political lawyer type of lie. We're going to tell you just enough truth so that you see our point of the story, not the point of the story. That's what they're doing. So for me, for my audience that's listening, I have to let them know I have to be 100% transparent to the entire situation so they can see how they're being manipulated. Because if I don't prove to them how they're being manipulated, then they're going to say, well, Triforce, but it looks this way. It's the same argument people were making against Edgar. How come Edgar's not putting blah, blah, blah? People are just making conjecture and insertion. They don't know what's going on with the man's life. They have no information, but they're just making judgments automatically. I thought we were innocent until proven guilty. Why are we guilty and we have to prove ourselves innocent? That doesn't make any sense. So this is why I'm explaining it. So this way this guy's writing this off. He's making it like I'm paying off refs. I'm not paying off any refs. I'm tipping them. So then Patrick Scott Patterson said, well, we need to stop Triforce from giving any money to any refs anymore. So they stopped it. They said, Triforce, you can't tip any, you can't give any more money to the refs for tips or whatever the case may be. So I said, okay. So I stopped giving tips to the refs.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but after listening to that particular clip, the extended version of that clip with a little more context, because they like to say that I take Triforce out of context. After looking at that clip, what I gather from that is, yes, he did use the term tipped. He did not say he tried to tip a ref. He said he tipped refs. Not only that, but he kind of provides a little bit of information to imply that this isn't something that didn't happen. This isn't something that he tried to do. This is something he actually did. And he goes as far as to say that when people found out that he was doing this, more particularly Patrick Scott Patterson, when Patrick Scott Patterson called him out on this practice of tipping refs, he told him he couldn't do it anymore. And then he goes on to say, so he stopped tipping the refs. That doesn't sound like the statement of someone who misspoke. That sounds like someone who was extremely confident in the statement that they were making, that they tipped refs. They tipped refs who were generous enough to verify their live performances and their videotaped scores. They tipped these refs, and when they were told not to do it anymore, they stopped. How in the world does that sound like a statement made by someone who misspoke? I'm willing to give Triforce the benefit of the doubt, but when I look at that clip in its entirety, there's absolutely no way whatsoever Triforce misspoke. That was a very confident statement he was making there in regards to tips that he made to refs for verifying his tapes, for verifying his live performances, and going on to say that once PSP called him out for tipping refs, he stopped doing it. Why would he stop doing something when told he couldn't do that anymore by PSP? Why would he stop doing it if he was already told he couldn't do it right from the get-go? That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense if you're operating under the assumption that Triforce did not misspeak in his original statement. That's why it doesn't make any sense. John Klinkle states that Triforce misspoke because there is no evidence that Triforce actually tipped a referee. And I'll expand on that momentarily. As for the clip of Triforce saying, I gave refs tips, it is evident that Triforce misspoke because his own statements implicate him in something he never actually did. Now, I can't speak on Triforce and Patrick Scott Patterson's relationship, as I've done the best that I can to look into their relationship, but there's really nothing I can use to give one more credibility than the other. What I can speak on is this. It has already been stated that Triforce misspoke, and it has already been stated that there is no evidence that Triforce ever tipped a referee. Triforce has been known to say things he doesn't mean during passionate rantings from time to time. Despite this, what we have in the way of facts determines that he has not tipped any referees, and that his explanation is valid. Tipster and others are convinced this is proof that Triforce did tip. However, this is only Tipster's interpretation, and the record shows that Triforce did not tip. Unfortunately, Tipster has interpreted an erratic explanation for a confident statement. My point is that one cannot implicate themselves in something they never did.
Now, in regards to the allegations of bribes and his statements about trying to tip refs and things of that nature, that's really all I wanted to cover in this particular interview. If you want to watch the interview in its entirety, I'll leave a link in the description down below. I actually really recommend you guys check it out. It's actually not a bad interview. And what I gather from this interview is not only that there's a lot of holes in Triforce's story when compared to previous statements he's made and the statements he's currently making now, but he unintentionally exposes a lot of the corruption that was going on inside of Twin Galaxies under the previous administrations. Now, before I wrap up this video, I did promise you guys that I would cover some other noteworthy points of the interview, and I'm going to go ahead and cover some of those now. Now, the first thing that I want to cover is something that I've heard a lot of people tell me is something that Triforce does. I was a little bit skeptical at first, although I have to say, based on recent occurrences with me and, you know, his circle jerk of friends from his Discord server, I started to believe that maybe this was actually true. But Triforce actually admits in this interview that he has what he calls agents that go out and do his dirty work for him. This is something that a lot of people have come to me and said that, you know, Triforce doesn't fight his own battles. You can see multiple times on his live streams, he'll, you know, his buddies in his Discord will talk shit about someone, or they'll attack someone on Twitter and things of that nature. But when you ask Triforce about it or you call him out on it, his response is always something along the lines of, I didn't do it, they do it, and I don't speak for them. So it's very clear based on this statement that he makes in this interview that he actually does have other people do his dirty work for him. And I'm going to show you guys the clip where he confirms that right now.
This is a reply to one of Tipster's videos. This was sent to me by one of my agents in the fields who keep an eye on the foolishness for me.
Now, how does this fit the dirty work angle that Tipster is talking about? Any smart CEO has an intelligence operation. And with Triforce, this is no different. Even I work with my own people. This is just networking. I'm sure Tipster networks and gets sources from other people and gets information from other people. Now, I know Tipster is just going over things that people have requested him to cover, but to me, this is just evidence of sensationalism. Seeing as the focus here is to attach a negative connotation to the term agents, which is clearly being used ironically in the clip.
Now, in all fairness, that clip does not confirm that he has people in his close circle of friends that go out and attack people on his behalf. But at the very least, it does confirm that he has people out on the internet scouring the web to see if anybody talks about him negatively and reporting back to him. Now, in regards to the accusations that he has people, you know, attacking other people who are critical of him on his behalf, I'll let you guys decide if that clip confirms that for you, but I will be 100% transparent and fair. It doesn't necessarily confirm those particular accusations.
And another point about this dirty work angle, Tipster brings up accusations that Triforce's buddies talk shit and attack people on Twitter. Then after he plays the clip that allegedly confirms this, Tipster states that he will let the viewer decide whether the accusation is true, followed by stating that the clip does not actually confirm the accusation. So why should anyone be confused if you believe the clip doesn't confirm the accusation? How can Tipster enable people to make their own conclusion about an accusation that he says, while being 100% transparent, does not confirm those accusations? That baffles me.
You have me blocked on Twitter, but if by some chance you watch this video and you make it to the end here, I want to offer you an opportunity to come on my show. Let's have a discussion. Don't worry, I'm not going to go on the attack. This is going to be civil. Come on my show. You know, I do a live stream every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to come on and you want to have a conversation, maybe tell your side of the story, I'm inviting you to do so. So if you want to take me up on that offer, you know, email me, robert@tipsterproductions.com. You can unblock me on Twitter and send me a DM. Whatever method of communication you choose, reach out to me and let's see if we can get this thing rolling, if you want to, of course.
Tipster offers Triforce an invitation to come on his show and also says he knows he has him blocked on Twitter. What some of you may not know, and what Tipster leaves out, is a situation where he also blocked Triforce after telling Triforce to fuck off. And at that time, Triforce responded in kind and blocked him. I don't know if Tipster thinks he can just take back what he says by simply unblocking Triforce on Twitter, but this invitation just seems half-hearted to me. That's just my opinion.
Like I tried to tell Black Pauldron the other night, but apparently he's too stupid to understand what I was trying to say. I offer you this opportunity to come on. If you don't want to take it, that's fine. I'm not going to force you to, try and come on to my show, nor would I want to force you to come on. Somehow Black Pauldron interpreted that as me contradicting myself, saying that I said that he's welcome to come on the show, but I don't want him to. I don't know how he got that out of that.
If you go to Tipster's or my Twitter page, you will see our entire exchange there. My comments were mainly focused on questioning Tipster's integrity, but like he says, there is a point where I do misinterpret his invitation to his show. Now, I am dyslexic and I have made strides to correct that issue. However, Tipster has been grasping at this slip-up to somehow deflect attention away from the primary criticism in our exchange. I never block anybody who's critical of me. However, after our exchange, Tipster did block me on social media and then somehow miraculously followed me. Point is, he has unblocked me, and I appreciate that. After doing all the work that I've done on this video, I have reconsidered accepting his invitation. According to him, it still stands. I make no promise, of course. I'm very busy. And I typically just don't agree with him on most things. It just depends. Like I said, no promises. Make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, like the video, leave a comment, and follow me on Twitter. That's where I am most of the time. Yeah. This is the man in the mask, and I'll see you guys in the next one.